Yo, what plant is that? What plant is
Hey,
that?
that's
What plant is
that's
that?
a pretty
What
flower,
plant is
my
that?
G.
What? What is that?
That's neat.
Greetings. Here we have elderberry, botanical name, scientific name, Sambucus canadensis. A few of the common names are American elder, Canadian elderberry, and common elderberry. This Sambuca species is a pretty large species, and we find it native to North America and Europe. And also the Sambuca species can be found in Asia, Eastern Australia, South America, Africa, generally North Africa, Korea, Siberia, among the Canary Islands, Costa Rica, Panama, and Japan. And it may even be found in the distances between these locations. Elderberry is a plant that features white or cream-colored flowers with 5 petals. It has compound leaves which have noticeable teeth along the edges, or they may be less noticeable in the less mature plants and may even appear to be smooth. But as you get a little bit closer, you will see that they also have tiny little teeth along the edges. They may be curled up and appear smooth from a distance. This plant is in the edible and medicinal category, and the edible parts being the flowers and berries. Elderberry contains vitamins A and C, calcium, iron, and flavonoids. The flowers can be eaten raw or dipped in a batter and fried. The berries can be eaten raw, but most recipes call for them being cooked into either baked goods like pancakes, waffles, or muffins, or turned into preservatives and jams, or it is famous also for being made into a wine. The berry clusters, while you're looking to identify them, they must be flat like cauliflower, in the same way that the flowers of elderberry appear to have a cauliflower umbrella shape, which is called an umbel, and it cannot be round. Okay, so if you find a plant that you think may be elderberry and it has the rounded flowers or the rounded all around shape of the berries looking like a ball, then you know that it is not the elderberry. In all these locations that it grows, it is said to grow in mostly moist soils and at the edges of forest and wetlands. But if you're going out specifically looking for elderberry, I seem to always find them in ditches. So if you know the terrain of your area and you're looking for elderberry, check the ditches first. As far as the berries being eaten raw, that will get into a specific reason why you would eat them raw, and that would be more on the medicinal side. A little bit about elderberries. They do contain 2 compounds, one being prunacin, the other one being sambunagrin, which degrade into hydrogen cyanide. Okay? These are cyanide-inducing glycosides, and it also comes along with lectin. And when coupled together, it's shown to be poisonous to humans. These compounds can be found in the seeds, leaves, bark, and raw elderberries themselves, which is why they require cooking. And if you eat enough of these coupled compounds with the lectins and the cyanide-inducing glycosides, it can cause a toxic buildup of cyanide in the body and make you sick. On the more mild end, it can cause abdominal cramps, nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. And on the more severe end of the spectrum, it can cause comatosis, where you would go into a coma, or even require hospitalization. Fortunately, cyanide is a very volatile substance, and it evaporates at slightly above room temperature, which means that by drying or roasting, you would effectively remove any low-level poison from the berries. This drying and roasting, the drying process is pertaining to using something like a dehydrator, or dehydrating them in your oven with the use of heat drying and not air drying. Although it has been pretty hot lately in June, you can get away with it, but it's not advised to dry them outside. Important to note here that some of the compounds in elderberry can disrupt chemotherapy drugs, bringing them to the point of even being ineffective. Medicinally, elderberry is commonly known as an immune system stimulant. It has been reported to shorten the times of flus, colds, H1N1 swine flu, and other respiratory issues, helping to rid mucus, also used for the purposes of boosting the immune system in those with HIV and AIDS. Less commonly, elderberry is used for pain, such as sinus pain, back and leg pain, or sciatica, nerve pain, dental pain, heart pain, and even headaches. And it is also used in chronic fatigue syndrome, most likely due to the flavonoids and antioxidants within elderberry, and the iron also. More often than not, the medical use is made effective by making a tea with the berries by boiling or simmering them for 10 to 15 minutes. Elderberry is diaphoretic, meaning that it induces sweating, which also makes it antipyretic, which means to be used to prevent or reduce fever. Now, a few studies we have, one from as recent as February 2022 this year, it has been looked at to be used against COVID-19 in vascular protective functions and antiviral effects for these symptoms that come along with COVID. From another study from August 2020, which was done on the respiratory aiding effects of elderberry, it is stated that within 2 to 4 days, most adult participants experienced significant symptom reduction by around 50% on average. An earlier study from November 2019 done on elderberry against a separate coronavirus called HCoV-NL63 showed that elderberry directly stops the attachment of that virus to the ACE2 receptors. The ACE2 receptors have been identified as the same receptors that COVID-19 uses to enter into the cell. It was shown to block entry into the cell, and this hindered the survival and replication of the spread of the virus within the body. There are a few toxic lookalikes to be aware of when trying to identify elderberry. First, we will cover pokeweed, scientific botanical name Phytolacca americana. And this pokeweed has much larger leaves that are not compound, and it grows berries in columns rather than in an umbrella cauliflower shape. The next one we have is Chinese privet, scientific name Ligustrum sinensis, and it is also a berry producing bush which has simple opposing leaves rather than the compound leaves like those of elderberry, and the fruit of this Chinese privet appears to grow in grape-like clusters. Another one on here, which is a closer look-alike to elderberry to be on the lookout for, is arrowwood. Scientific name Viburnum dentatum. Now this one Arrowwood produces an umbrella cauliflower umbel-shaped cluster of small white flowers that look just like the elderberry flowers. But it has simple, opposite leaves along the branches like those of the Chinese privet, which is how you will be able to distinguish it from the elderberry that you're looking for. Back to the elderberry. Earlier I spoke about how the berries could be eaten raw only for a specific medical reason that you would do that, and that would be in the case of a type of poisoning. If you find that you have been poisoned and you do not have access to activated charcoal, which is the primary substance for any type of poisoning, then instead you would consume the raw elderberries, swallowing them like pills. Like you can put them in a bottle of water and start swallowing them down, and within 30 minutes you will begin to start vomiting. And as long as it's not a fast-acting poison, this may come to aid you from absorbing the poison within your system. And that is the particular medical use of raw elderberries. Similar to how ipecac is used to induce vomiting in case of poisoning. Hope this has been helpful. Peace.
If you have any existing health concerns, take that into consideration. If you are taking any medications at this time, take that into consideration and allow a 2 to 3 hour window before consuming plants medicinally. Do not take anything that you are not sure of or that you have not properly identified. If you have any further concerns, do not consume the plant. If you would like to know what other medical implications may come about from going back to a more natural life, to a more traditional lifestyle, after you have properly identified and know the uses of plants thoroughly, and you are still concerned, of course, consult your local drug dealing doctor.